CoreData in SwiftUI 4. This is what we are going to learn today and in the next episode. Go ahead and check out the captions down below because this will be quite a long one. And I'm also going to have another part here because it's quite a big topic. So I'm splitting it into two. So make sure that you are also going to check out the next video too. Before we dive into what we are going to build out with CoreData and SwiftUI 4, let me remind you that you have still got 4 days in the summer sale. This is basically the only sale that I made for years now. It's called Summer Sale and it's at store.rebeloper.com/summer-sale. All of my products, 12 products, at half the price. So go ahead and check it out. Now, if you don't want to purchase all of the products, then you can just go ahead and use the promo code Summer Sale. It's just one word, Summer Sale. When you are going at the checkout on any of my products, as you can see, there's quite a lot right over here. Go ahead and check it out. If you use Summer Sale, the promo code, you will get 30% off. If you want to buy everything, then it's a 50% off. I believe this is a good deal. So today we are going to talk about CoreData in SwiftUI 4. So what I'm doing is using Xcode Beta. Currently Xcode Beta 6 is what I'm using. Yeah, that's what you want to download. Either Xcode 14. Let me just take a look at this. Xcode 14 Beta 6. Now, if you already have Xcode 14 rolled out, then that's fine. Yeah, make sure that it's not the previous one because there are some new stuff right over here. So let me build and run and show you what we are going to build out today. So basically, you are going to learn CoreData from the basics and like 95% of what you want to use with CoreData. So this really simple demo app has categories and the categories have items in them. You may add a new category, or maybe let's just go with free. You may save them, and also you may search, so one maybe, or free, there we go. And also you can go into a category and add any items. So for example, in free, there aren't any items. So let's add our first item right over here. Let's save that. And basically that's it. This is what we are going to build out. And with this simple demo app, you will learn how to use CoreData with SwiftUI. Okay, so let's jump right into it. We are going to start off with a brand new Xcode project. So let's select new and project, and I will select app on the iOS. You can just go ahead and expand that if you want to. And I will name this CoreData SwiftUI 4. There we go. Make sure that the interface is SwiftUI, language is Swift, and I'm not going to check the use CoreData or host in CloudKit because we are going to build that out ourselves. Maybe you have already checked this, but sometimes you want to update an app which wasn't started with the use CoreData checked, so that's why I'm leaving it unchecked, so you can take it from there. So let me just save this onto my computer right over here. It's really down deep under code. There we go. Let's create that, and yeah, this is what we have right over here. Today I want to start the project by adding the categories. On the next video, we are going to talk about adding some items to the categories and the search functionality. Okay, so first thing first, we want to create a CoreData model, and I do have my notes right over here. So if you just see me peek down right over here, it's either because I'm going through the list that I made, or I'm taking a look at your comments. Go ahead, if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and pop them into the chat. Now, let's see. Let's create a CoreData model. So let's select a new file right over here. Let's see, data model. There we go. And usually you want to name your data model the same as your project. So I will just name it again CoreData SwiftUI 4. Okay, let's create that. And this is kind of the interface that we get. First, we want to create two entities. One is the category and the other one is the item. So if we click right over here, add entity, there we go. And let's rename it. You want to click twice on the name, category, there we go. And we want to add an attribute to that category, and that is value. And for the type, you will see that there are quite a lot of stuff right over here. What I'm going to select here is string, but you can add in here quite a lot of types of data. Okay, so that's our category. Next up, we want to create an item. So let's add our item. And the same goes. Let's just have value as the attribute of type string. Okay, so now that we got our two entities created, we want to create a connection between those. And when you are creating these relationships between your entities, you want to think of your data set. How will it look like? In our case, we will have categories, and each category will have multiple items. And yeah, basically that's it. So for that, under the category, let's click on under relationships, let's click on plus, and let's add items, because we will have multiple items. For the value, let's select item, and currently we have no inverse, but if we delete a category, we want to delete all of its items. So under the delete rule right over here, you want to select cascade. Type is too many. So one category, too many items. So many items, that's what I like to call them. Okay, so under the item, it's the same thing, but we are not going to use the cascade delete rule. So under relationships, click on plus, categories is what I select, destination category, and select the inverse to items and the type to many. Okay, now believe it or not, this is the simplest setup that we are going to use to learn CoreData. So basically that is it. Your data model is ready for now. You don't have to do any file generation or all of that stuff. You can just leave it as is. Now, next up, we want to create a persistence controller, because yeah, we didn't check that button. Well, the check mark, so Xcode didn't create that with the template. So I'm just going to right click again, new file. It will be a simple Swift file, and let's name this persistence. Okay, what do we need right over here? Well, first of all, we need to import CoreData. And while we are at it, I'm just also going to add CloudKit support. So let's import CloudKit also. This will be a simple struct, and it's called persistence controller. Okay, so the persistence controller will need to have a shared way of accessing it. So again, let's just create a static let shared, and that is our persistence controller. Okay, we want to have a container, so a let container of type NS, and this is where you want to choose your CloudKit container. So NS persistence CloudKit container, and that's it. There we go. And after that, persistence control. Yeah, so it does have missing, but we are going to create an initializer here shortly. So in the initializer, let me just go right over here. We want to have init in memory. So we are going to create a custom initializer in memory. So is this going to be handled inside the memory? So we are going to have this as a Boolean value and set this to false by default. Okay, so now, so to get rid of that nasty error, we want to initialize our container. And that is our NS persistence CloudKit container with our name. Now you want to select the model's name here. So let's see, that's CoreData SwiftUI 4. Make sure that you don't have any typos right over here. Okay, so next up, if we are in memory, so if there is a memory, then we want to set this to a URL of a dev. So let me just type this out. It will be much easier to understand once you have that line. So container dot persistence store descriptions dot first. We need to bang that out, and then we grab our URL, and that is a URL from a file there, URL. Let's have that file, okay, with a capital L, and that's file with URL, file URL with path. Yes. Yeah, I believe that's right. And what we are going to do here is dev underscore null. So yeah, this is what you want to do if you are storing that in memory. Now we want to set up some specifications about the container. So first of all, do we want this to be kind of syncing to CloudKit automatically? Well, we want to. So we just go container dot persistence store view context dot automatically merges changes from parent, and let's set this to equals to true. And then we want to load the persistence stores. So container dot load persistence stores. We have a completion right over here. We are going to have a store description and an error. Oh, let's just hit tab, and an error right over there. So we want to check if we got any errors. If let error equals error, then we want to show a fatal error here, but we are going to have a localized description with a fatal error. Well, you want to handle your error here. Let's say you either show an alert for this, or maybe you just ignore it or do something else. You do have to handle this error, not with a fatal error. This is just for demo purposes. Okay, so now that we have our initializer, and let's see, do we have all of that ready? NS, well, this is just a store descriptions. There we go. I hope, let's hit Command B. It looks okay. Okay, build has succeeded. Now that we have our persistent stores loaded, what we want to do is create some sort of a save and delete functionality on the persistence controller, because otherwise it would be tedious. We would just do this over and over again. So because I really do like to have async await or async throws in my code, I will just do this asynchronously. So let's create our function called save. And actually, this is just going to throw, so throws, and we are going to get the context. So let context, there we go, and that's from our container.viewContext. There we go, and let's just check if we already have saved the changes. So if context has changes, so if it has any changes, then we are going to try to save that. So context.save. Okay, and yeah, this is really nice because we don't have to write out all of this code several times in our project. Finally, we want to have a delete functionality. So delete, And for that, we are going to delete object. So this will be an object, and that is an NSMANAGED object. And again, this will just throw an error. If there is an error, we're going to get the context again. So context equals our container. There we go, dot view context. And we just go context.delete that object. Okay, and after we delete the object, we actually want to save our context. So we are going to try and save the same exact function that we have created. Okay, so that's kind of done. We have our persistence controller. Now we want to add this to our application, because this is just a simple struct. It's just a file. So let's just go to the app, and what we are going to do here is initiate our persistence controller. So let persistence controller, there we go, equals persistence controller dot, and we are going to ask for the shared one, so we don't initiate it over and over again. Now we are going to use some navigations, therefore the content view will have our navigation stack. There we go. This is new. This is something that we have in iOS 16, in SwiftUI 4. And on the navigation stack, we are going to set an environment for the managed context key path. So there we go, managed object context. Okay, Xcode 14 is really great at auto completion. And we are going to have the value of the persistence controller that we have just created, its container and its view context. So we are adding the managed object context. It's the container's view context. Therefore, when we want to access it, we can access it as an environment. And basically that is what we are going to do. So now if we build and run our project, it will be quite the same. So let's just hit Command R so we know that, okay, everything has built, it's looking really great. So what do we want to do here? Well, first of all, we want to add a category. So we want to create that view. So let's just go maybe under the content view. Let's create a new file. SwiftUI view. Let's create the next and add category view. Because after we added some categories, we are going to populate the content view with a list of those categories. Okay, so what do we want to have in these categories? Well, first of all, we want to have, if you recall the demo that I had shown you at the beginning of this tutorial, we want to have a text field and then a button. So basically that's really easy to do. Let me just have a VStack right over here real quickly. And on that VStack, we are going to have a text field. And let's just use the one with the title and text. And let's just have category there. And for the binding for the text, I'm going to save this. So let's have a private state variable of a value, and that will be an empty string. So let's bind that value right over there. Text field style, I always add text field style of rounded border for these tutorials so we can see our text field. Okay. Finally, we want to also have a button. So we have our button. I always use the action and label because then the label could be anything. Currently, I'm just going to have save. And also, I'm going to have a button style of border prominent. Now, on the action, let's just have a save function. So just copying that out, pasting our function name right over here. Okay, and finally we want to also have a spacer, so all of this would be moved all the way up, and let's just have some padding so we can see our text field and our buttons, like the edges with the padding, it's really, really nice. Okay, so after we save and all of that, we also want to dismiss this view automatically. So for that, we want to have the dismiss environment, and that's environment dismiss private var dismiss. And we also want to grab the view context in any case, because we are going to create our category with that. So that's also an environment. So environment, but I don't have my code snippet for that, but it's managed object context, private var, and view context. Okay, so I believe we are ready with the UI and the setup. Now it's time to save. Now, how do we save this? Well, because we do have its value for our category, we just need to create a category right over here, and that's category. And please choose the one with the context. So it requires an NSMANAGEDOBJECT which we are getting from the environment. So we just go view context. And on that category, we are currently just going to set its value. And that comes from the state variable value. Okay, now it's time to save. We are going to use a do catch statement, because yeah, we do want to catch some errors. Currently, I'm just going to print out the errors localized description, but feel free to go ahead and maybe present this to the user inside an alert. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to save. So try persistence controller dot shared dot and save. As you can see, this is the one that it's going to throw. So after we do save it and everything went okay, we want to use the dismiss action to dismiss this view. And yeah, we are ready with our add category view. Now it's time to present that add category view. So let's just go in the content view, and what I'm going to do is actually add a toolbar item on the top right, a simple plus sign, and present this add category view inside the sheet. So to be able to present this, of course, we need an is add category view presented state variable. By default, that's set to false. Okay. So let's just add our toolbar. We are not going to have any paddings after that, so let me just remove that. Let's have a toolbar with the content, and right over here I'm just going to add a toolbar item with a placement. So in SwiftUI 4, but in Xcode 14, you will see this really nice auto completion where it says placement in kind of grayish, grayed out way. If we want to use that, we want to use not the return on that auto completion, but option return. And that's what I want to use. And dot primary, not principal, primary action. And on the content, well, let's add a button. And again, action and label. On the button, I want to toggle the is add category view presented. Let me just toggle that. And for the label, let's just have a simple image of system name, and that will be a plus. Okay, now this is our button. Now we need to have an actual sheet. So dot sheet, I'm going to choose the one with is presented. I don't care on dismiss, so let's just bind the is add category view presented state variable, and add category view should be the destination. Okay. Whew, that was really great. So let's just build and run and see if basically the UI is great. So there we go. I'm not going to add a category just yet because currently we are not displaying any of if we have any categories. So let's just do that right now before I save any categories, so you can see that it's automatically updating. Okay, so what we want to do is basically have a fetch request, and we want to populate that fetch request into a list. So let's take care of the fetch request first. After the state variable, let's just have fetch request. There we go. And we are going to use the one with the sort descriptors and animation. Why do I want to use the sort descriptors and no predicate at this moment? We are going to talk about that also. But why I want to use this is because I want to have them in order of their value, like in an alphabetically order. So now you will learn about sort descriptors. So again, option and return. Now for the sort descriptors, it's an array. So that's an NS sort descriptor. And what I'm going to use is a key path. This is something again new. I believe it was like, it's not iOS 16 new, but it is something relatively new. What we want to use is have /category a dot and value ascending. Let's just have this as true. Now for the predicate, as I told you, I'm going to omit this, but we are going to talk about that I believe well next time. Yes. And the animation, let's just go with the default animation. Okay, so maybe we want to have some sort of return right over here. Well, it all depends. Let's hit Control I to indent that. Okay, so what we want to do now is have it as a private var categories, and that's a fetch result of type category. Okay, so now we have our categories. Now it's time, and this will be basically fetched on when this view appears. So what we want to do is create our list, and instead of this vstack, I'm going to have a list right over here. And well, actually, let's not use that auto completion because I don't really like it. Let's just have a for each. Whenever you have any view modifiers after your view that you are trying to add, it has this strange auto completion, which I don't really like. So under the for each, I'm going to have our categories. There we go. And in the categories, we are going to have a category and in. And for now, let's just have our value printed out. So category dot value, and that's an optional. And if we don't have anything, then we are just going to have this as an empty string. Okay. So now that we have the possibility to add a new category and to fetch all of the categories according to their value in an alphabetically order and put them inside the list, let's just do that. Well, actually, I'm just going to add in a navigation title here also. So categories, so we know where we are. Okay, let's build and run again. And fingers crossed, everything goes okay. So we have our empty list currently. Let's click on the plus, and I'm just going to add in a 1. Let's save that. And as you can see, we already have that right over there. Okay, let's build and run again so we can see that, okay, everything has been persisted. Let's add another one. So 2 maybe. There we go. So it's really nice. Okay, so now that we have 2 categories, I want to add the possibility to delete any of those categories. So that's our next objective, to delete. So to delete, we are going to use the swipe to delete functionality from the list. And let's just build out the actual function first. So let me just move this a little bit up. It will be a private function because I don't really like other classes or views to mess around with this. Func delete. And what we are going to get from the list is actually an index set. And it's going to be called offsets, and it's type of index set. There we go. Okay, so I want to do this with an animation, so I'm going to grab, wrap all of this into a with animation. There we go. And yeah, I'm going to actually go through all of the offsets. So offsets dot for each, and this will be an offset. Now, what we want to grab is the actual category, so we can delete that category with the persistence that we have created. So let category equals categories at that offset. Okay, and then we do the do catch statement and print out the errors localized description. Okay, and on the do we are just going to delete. So try persistence controller dot shared dot and delete that object, and that is our category. Okay, and now it's time to link this functionality with our list. And that is really straightforward. That's why I like to use the list with the for each, because now all we have to do is just use the on delete and with the perform, and we just go delete offsets. And you don't have to tap on auto completing that. You just type out delete offsets, and this is how it should look like. Okay. So we are getting at the end of our tutorial for today. Let's just delete some categories. Let's click on the build and run button. Let's just swipe to dismiss, swipe to delete, maybe 2. There we go. Maybe delete this also. Let's build and run again. Okay, no categories there. Let's just have 1. Save that. And let's just have 2 again, and maybe 3. Let's save that. And as you can see, it's in alphabetical order. And what I'm going to do is just delete the 2. Let's delete that. It's really great. So we have added the categories, the functionality for the categories. Now, next time, we are going to add in the items for those categories, and we are also going to implement search for our categories. So stay tuned for that. It's going to come out tomorrow morning, and you will be able to watch it right over here.